paramedics and nurses, and they ended up going to the hospital. She gets diagnosed COVID pneumonia. She's breathing fine, talking fine, and that wasn't what it was, but they give her remdesivir.
We are not a place for mom. We are not like one of those mass lead generation sites. We make a one-on-one match and we introduce the family to the provider. So it's very different and you are not going to be inundated. We are not selling your information. We make a really curated match based off of what you need, where you live, what you can afford.
Good morning, this is Dr. Brad at Your Health Reclaimed, where we really get into the root causes of the reasons why people are struggling with their health issues. And those aren't really what most people expect. We look at history. A lot of people are looking for diagnosis. A diagnosis just locks you into something that you think is going to help you, and it doesn't. It's only an insurance code, and that you deal with diagnosis. It's not going to guarantee you're going to restore your health. And we work with all different aspects of health. Today, we're going to be talking with somebody who's working into long-term care, which we tend to think that's only the elderly, but that's not always the case. I remember years ago, heard about a young woman. She was of Indian descent, gorgeous black long hair, just a beautiful woman who had MS. She was totally dysfunctional. She's stuck into long-term care. And when you start working with people like that, I hadn't been around the elderly till I got into healthcare. They're fascinating, amazing people, especially if you can keep them cheered up. That's one of the biggest things. But we're going to be talking around this arena today with Lindsay Friedman. So why don't you introduce yourself, Lindsay?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Brad, for having me. My name is Lindsay Friedman. I am the founder of Care Bloom, which is a caregiver support tool to help family caregivers have some freedoms in their lives and really to support them on that really tough journey. I'm also the founder of LT Care Nav, where we help families plan for long-term care, which can be really challenging and intricate and really personal. And then we help them create a care concierge circle where we give them access to vetted professionals for when and where they need them. And it's really kind of a beautiful marriage of helping people prepare for long-term care, which, as you said, does not always mean elderly. Sometimes it does mean earlier in life when it is an illness that is debilitating that requires that kind of care. And I have been working in the long-term care space since right after high school. I've worked as a caregiver. I've worked as a senior care advisor across the spectrum. So I've got a lot of really intimate knowledge in what it looks like for this market and what people are really dealing with.
So as you're talking there, it reminded me of where I used to live. There are a couple of nursing homes in the area. One in a town close by, they hired a cute nurse to do PR out in the public. But when you talk to people in the inner workings, it was one of the most neglectful, abusive places around, where people weren't cleaned up. They wallowed in their excrement all day long. And you see that whole nightmare. How do you teach people how to see that for what it is before they're in the midst of all that and all the nightmare that goes on?
That is really commonplace in the industry, and it's awful and terrible. So I think it's kind of a two-part step. When you start to look where your family's going to go, walk around, look in the rooms. If you don't see aides or nursing assistants walking around, there's most likely a shortage. And when there is a shortage, that means your family member, your loved one, is not going to get the care they need. It might not come from a lack of compassion. It just comes from a lack of staffing and the ability to actually take care of folks. Now, this one is like, there's no other way of saying it. Kind of smell what it smells like.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And I know, and it's kind of gross to say that, but if there's a really pungent odor of urine or feces, you can tell that means the folks are not being cleaned up. It's awful, but it does happen. It's actually one of the main reasons I created Care Bloom is we have a feature that allows us to see what the caregiver is doing as well, the professional caregiver. So we can actually tell you if the caregiver, if the home health aide or the nursing assistant has actually been with your parent. How are your relative? How much time they've spent with them? Did they actually complete the task that they say they're completing on their care plan? And it's really important to make sure those things are done. There's a lot of terrible things that can happen with lack of care. And just when you do place your loved one somewhere, check on them. If you see bed sores forming, if you can tell they're not clean, it's probably something more perpetual and not that you're just catching it at a bad moment. So just keep all those things in mind.
Something that you just said, I looked at this years ago and I was absolutely shocked. This issue of bed sores. Most people don't realize this, but traditionally, up until COVID hit, medical doctors were the third most prevalent cause of death in America that there was. Cancer was number one, cardiovascular number two, and doctors was number three. The thing that blew me away, and right now after COVID, they're far in number one place. Far, if you really look at the honest statistics. The thing that shocked me the most was these studies looking at that. There were over 110,000 people died every year from bed sores. Bed sores in hospital, nursing home situations. How does that possibly conceivably happen? That's just totally outrageous.
That's lack of care. And I think a lot of the population doesn't realize when we're talking about bed sores, right? We're not talking about, oh, little red spot or scuff that happened because mom's in the same place. Bed sores can be catastrophic and they can go very deep, like down, you can start to see muscles. They are terrible and excruciatingly painful, and they are completely preventable.
Right. And don't they stink when they're starting to get
Yeah.
necrotic?
Yeah, they do. It is a terrible thing, but the worst part is that how preventable they are. Proper cleaning, turning, making sure people are in the right position, like that is what it takes. And it takes a lot of effort and it's consistent of all of these kind of things to make sure they don't happen. And that I think is what so awful about when you see these statistics about death or how many people are suffering with bed sores. It doesn't have to happen.
Right. You look at somebody who becomes debilitated and loses the ability to move. The issue of some caregiver running them through courses of movement is such a critical issue. Years ago, one of my brothers had a bicycle accident, went through the back window of a car, and was one moment he was a senior engineer in Apple, the next he was a full quad.
I'm sorry.
I went out a week later to go visit him. He was a new believer, and I thought, I'll go have some devotions with him. I took a Bible and was ready to do that. I come around the corner into his room where the screen is, and I run, I'm almost nose to nose. We're like this far apart from the head nurse. And she goes, "Oh, you're here." I guess she was expecting me. "Would you like to feed your brother breakfast?" And I'm looking at her, guys don't do that. They just don't. And you look at your agenda and you look at a need, and it's like, you got to have your own private conversation about, are you going to go for your agenda? Are you going to go for what your private need was? Not, I'm just drop what my agenda was. because I really don't have one, just an idea. I'm going to drop that. I'm going to see what happens. And the thing that amazed me the most, it was one of the most pathetic breakfasts I'd ever seen. And it has to be like, the eggs, they were as pale as you possibly could be. Hash browns looked like they never touched the griddle, maybe microwaved a little bit, translucent. That's about it. And I'm going, oh man, how can you even eat this? Do you like hot sauce or something like that on your breakfast? Had to go find some of that to even make it palatable. And I'm feeding him, and his teeth are fuzzy. He's been in the hospital for a week. I think the day before he showed up, he started to get a little feeling in his right hand and just a little bit of movement, like this. That was it. And the thing that blew me away the most is, we fast and prayed for people to get him healing and all kinds of stuff. And I've seen some dramatic stuff. I'm working with him doing human dignity, human need, cleaning him up, brushing his teeth, shaving him, feeding him, and the Lord starts healing him. By the end of the day, he went from the day before a little bit of movement in his right hand. He almost stood up on his own.
Oh, wow.
And the Lord gave me a word for him and said, most people with words are kind of flaky, as far as time frames and all that, but I keep hearing this, and I keep hearing 2 weeks. I don't know if this 2 weeks is from today or 2 weeks from your accident, but within 2 weeks, you could be working on the parallel bars. You can walk out of this place.
Wow.
And 6 weeks later, he walked out. Oh, a week later, he walked into my oldest daughter's wedding.
That's amazing. I'm glad you had that kind of miraculous ending.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing, but that's how big this human dignity thing is. It wasn't this spiritual, high, mighty thing dealing with human dignity, and Lord healed him through that, not what you would expect.
Yeah. I think people respond really well to being cared for from a place of kindness, right?
Huge.
And there are lots of studies about loneliness and quality of care and improvement of well-being, right? Life is better when we feel that people are genuinely taking care of us. And that's a beautiful gift you were able to give your brother. That is one of the things that I work with my families really intently on, is making sure that we're providing not just good care, but what that means to be a good care partner and not showing that we're pouring from an empty cup. You hear a lot of caregivers are very frustrated, and I think that comes out on the care you give, and really kind of taking a moment to assess that because of results like what you saw with your brother.
Yeah, you said something that I think a lot of people philosophically don't really get. You cannot give good care unless you take care of yourself first. That has to be a priority in anything. It's really easy to burn out, and burning out doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah.
Yourself, that becomes obvious, and good-hearted people will. Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you know who he is, but he put it this way: you're never mature till somebody else in your life is more important than you.
Yeah.
And there is that aspect of things, but you can't be a good caregiver. You can't be a husband. You can't be a good wife. You can't be a good friend. You can't be anything if you're not taking care of yourself first. And it doesn't mean that has to be some ridiculous pie in the sky type of thing. It's simple things like taking showers, keeping yourself clean, eating properly, making sure you get proper rest and quiet time to unwind. And those things are absolutely critical because you can't give out of an empty cup.
Yeah. I take care of my parents now. I run my two companies, and I'm actually a caregiver I have a chronically ill daughter. And when we talk about moments for ourselves, sometimes it's not a lot of moments, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
1 hour on Sundays, and it's my yoga. I go to yoga. This one class is I found to be the most meaningful to my condition and being there. And I make a point, like, I'm like, somebody must come and stay with my daughter. I make sure everyone is situated, and that is my hour that is scheduled on my calendar. And it's so important that people who are caring remember these like little times. It could be 1 hour a week, but make sure you have that moment to reset, whatever that means for you, and make it a
Yeah,
priority.
which is hugely different. You take introverts, they need their alone quiet time. They're just not going to function without it. Everybody needs adequate sleep. Some people that's more physical, they might have to go do something physical. Somebody's more mental, they might need to do something mental. They need to have the liberty to do whatever it takes to regenerate me.
Absolutely.
It's sad to watch people who have the idea that I'm going to give till I just burn out because they don't have quality to give.
And it's going to come out in your disposition, right? Like when we feel burnt out, we feel tired, overwhelmed, we get cranky. It's human nature. Like if you don't, then you got some kind of superpower, right? It drains us.
Right.
It drains our ability to be patient. And caregiving is oftentimes has to be come from a place of patience, right? Sometimes we feel like we're really being ordered around or demanding, and so those moments will make you a better caregiver and a better partner, whatever your core relationship is. Is it spouse? Is it sibling? Is it daughter? Is it mother? Right? Those
Mhm.
that makes you better at both the caregiver and whatever your core relationship is, which I always tell people, don't lose that. Don't lose who you are to that person, and don't let that relationship go away either.
Yeah, and don't allow it to be codependent where they suck the life out of you. That's a it's a really a common thing to happen. I heard this years ago, and I think this really applies to the elderly too. If you ask a child, a person, whoever, what presents they got for their fifth birthday, they're probably not going to remember, but they will remember who was there and who spent time with them. And that's one of the most critical things with people, elderly and people who have debilitated from some kind of dysfunction, where they're not able to get that self-worth regeneration from whatever they produce any longer. And it's different for men and women, different for different personalities, but the only thing you can really, the thing that you can give people that's the most value is quality time.
Yeah. I recently read a book called Creative Care by Dr. Ann Basting. Have you heard of this book?
No.
And she talks a lot about how we communicate and with people with dementia and elderly folks. And it was a really beautifully written book, and I learned so much from it. But one of the things is the person that you're dealing with, the person you're caring for, we have to remember is had had an active life, had missions, had things to accomplish during the day, right? And now this has happened to them, be it aging or dementia or Parkinson's or whatever this ailment is, and they are no longer doing what they feel like their journey was, right? You've taken a lot away from them. And so I do like that idea you said about just quality time. Making that not just about caring and giving your care recipient some sort of ability to re engage, to have some quality or some purpose, I think is really important and is also going to help if you allow them to be part of what you're doing and give them some purpose in their care journey as well.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I was reminded this kind of surprised me years ago when I heard about it, but the more I've watched it for decades.
Mhm.
For those who retire with nothing to do, the average lifespan is only about 2 years. That's it, because they have no purpose anymore. And men and women, they get their that value of self-worth in different ways, in a generic sense,
Hmm.
just kind of a generic sense. Women are more relational, men are more productive, but it doesn't mean that women aren't productive, and it doesn't mean that men aren't relational. They just,
Yeah.
it, it's it's how they're made.
Hmm.
It's just pretty much how they're made, and we have to engage that to give people value and purpose. That alone is one of the hugest factors in whether they're going to need long-term care, how much care they're going to need, all, all kinds of different factors that people don't really consider. Is what is that facility where they're getting long care? What's it do to keep that personal self-worth value up?
I think I've seen this even, it's not even just, it's already when you're in long-term care. So, or when I was in memory care really early on, I noticed that the women there, especially, were looking for things to do. Purpose can mean all different things, right? It doesn't have to mean I accomplished something or sold something, right? But for some of these ladies, it literally meant like I used to do the wash or I used to help do the dishes. And when I was an aide, I would make sure that the women who wanted to help with laundry could. Or if you
Yeah.
wanted to help with the dishes, and it sounds like you're trying to give them your job, right? I would have people go, "Oh, you can't do that. It's your job. They're here for you to do their laundry." They're here because they've got some memory issues and this is where they're safe. They have nothing to do all day. And if they find joy in helping me fold laundry and having a conversation around that, which feels normal, it's something that all of
Mhm.
these women did, right? They folded their kids' clothes, helping in the kitchen. It was such a beautiful thing to be able to give them. I could see they would thrive in those moments. And
Mhm.
something as little as that really could change trajectory and well-being. It gave them something to look forward to the next day.
Yeah, it reminds me of me raising my own children. Um, I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional home, and then that's a lot of people's history. But it gives a whole different perspective. And my perspective when I was young, I was like 9 or 10 years old when I came to realization I'm not going to live the uh, way my parents live. I'm not going to live the way this society lives. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And live my life a different way. So whenever anybody came over to visit, he commonly you're doing something in the kitchen. I've cooked since I was really, really young. I just include whoever joined in what I was doing. And nobody looked like, oh, wow, you're trying to make a slave labor or anything. It's just including you
Yeah.
in what's going on. And it's an amazing thing. You take men who come to visit and you include them in what you're doing in the kitchen. They don't look at you and go, oh, that's women's work. I don't do that. They It's this inclusionary thing of giving them value and
Mhm.
purpose in the moment. It's such a big thing.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason it doesn't happen a lot in assisted living or memory care is because they're understaffed. It takes time to include in most of the cases when you're working with elderly. It takes longer to do the laundry. It takes longer to get the dishes done. And so I think I would encourage aides to remember like this is a small gift you're doing during the day and it might take in a little extra time, but it's worth doing. Now, on the other hand, they're also told to meet quotas and get things done in their shift and they're understaffed. And I understand that, but that's where we really have to address what is the proper amount of staffing in these situations and what is we need to be able to slow down to better the outcomes for these folks.
Yeah. Plus, you're doing a balance thing that the statisticians don't get to see.
Mm.
If they're with you doing something that gives them purpose, increases their self-worth, you don't have to do as much personal care
Mhm.
in the room. and your rounds become less
Yeah.
with the more social group you can do around that. And it's always a give and a take. Statisticians just don't look at the big picture.
I think the problem is in some of these areas, it's not even statisticians. It's about bottom line, right? It's about the
Yeah,
dollars, and that is really a big part of the issue in long-term care. Is it's really about revenue and profit margins, and I don't know how we fix that to improve all of these other things, which you would really think that if you really start to dial it in, not returning to hospital, better outcomes, better quality of life, I would assume that somehow in the long run, if you can make it impactful enough, will play into your profit margins.
it should. You
Yeah.
look at long-term care, generally that's group homes. There's no cheaper way to house than in group homes. And you look at the charges that go on, it and the amount of time that's spent with these people, the hourly charge for personal time spent is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, something's upside down in the whole picture. And I haven't spent enough time in that institution to know that, but you see it in a huge way. You just don't see that much contact with staff.
Yeah.
Any idea where that disparity, what's drives all that?
Mm, I think a big disparity comes just they're understaffed. Now, mind you, my experience where I was really in homes, it goes back at this point 25 years. Okay. And we were understaffed then.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fortunate. The place I was the longest, I worked on a shift where it was all people who were like going to be nurses. And I did a 3 to 11, and there was better staffing, but everybody there was young and enthusiastic and mission oriented. But every so often I would pop to the like 7 to 3 or the late or the I never really did 11 to 7, but we could always see in the morning what that kind of care looked like because everyone was wet when we would come in. So I think it is about the amount of staff and what we're paying our caregivers. Somehow we've taken the job of nursing assistant, caregiver, home health aide, and made it a really low paying job. These primarily women who do these jobs are better off going to McDonald's
Isn't that a shock?
and working at McDonald's or one of those kind of jobs than they are to be an aide or an STNA. Like that, the compensation is not there. And it is one of the most needed jobs in our country right now. And we've just treated it as a really low level job and we're disrespectful to them. And I think that plays into it as well. We have to fix how we treat the people who care.
Which I think a lot of that comes down from an overview. I was talking to somebody about business earlier today and had to fix their overview of everything so they could understand what we're doing underneath all of that. And if you're doing long-term care, well, what's the purpose of that? Is it just to make a profit, or is it to give people the highest quality of life that's going to need the least amount of care and reduce the overall costs and give people dignity at the same time? It's whatever our bottom line is going to shape how we structure all that. And you can always get volunteers, and that's an interesting thing in and of itself. People come in and read newspapers to people and thinking, man, can't you read something more interesting than a newspaper?
Yeah.
It's interesting. My oldest daughter, all my kids graduated from high school with two-year college degree when they were 17 and moved
nice.
off. And she headed off to seminary, and she came home for a holiday. I think it was Christmas when she was 21. And she asked me this. She goes, Dad, remember how you always read to us when we were young? Oh, yeah. I always did nightly devotions with them and made them really creative, where things came alive and real, and they grew up differently than most people. And she asked me, could you go through one of those books while I'm home over the holiday? And I just smiled like you are. It's like, what a huge thing that you can make stories come alive, and people can live through the different characters, and you change your voice from one character to another, and you just play into the whole thing. It's amazing if you can do things like that with people, where the old radio shows were so much better than a movie because it included your imagination. Well, this one getting a little bit long here, so I'm going to cut in and split this one in two. So tune in the next episode. We put these out every Monday and Thursday morning. Tune in the next episode for the continuation of this talk with Lindsay Friedman. Good morning. This is Dr. Brad at Your Health Reclaimed, where we discuss the root causes of chronic illness, and that's really the only way you can heal people. If you try and chase a diagnosis or a condition, the name of that, you're not going to be able to access health again, because that's not why your health fails. And the conditions are just opportunities to grow off of root causes, which are usually lifestyle issues that set the stage for sickness to grow. So today we're going back into the second half of the talk with Lindsay Friedman. She's been working with long-term care. Oftentimes people think that's just elder care, but it's not. It can be a lot younger. They have a handicapped child that requires long-term care. She's worked with her own parents, and she's worked in the healthcare industry for 25 years. So she's got a lot of insight with this. And this is a good, open, frank conversation that everybody that someday is going to have to be involved with elderly people or disabled people, it's a refreshing conversation that really needs to be brought up and discussed, because there's so much that can be figured out and discussed beforehand. And we're really going to get into that even more on this second half of the talk. So let's jump in here.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump back to just that creative care book, which I just read it. So it's like high on my mind. And it was also one of the most brilliant books I've ever read about care. But it is about creativity and bringing people into a creative circle. And Dr. Basting runs a organization called TimeSlips. And one of the things she did was she would go to nursing homes and assisted livings, and she would put on these. They were not like a traditional play, but she would bring the residents into them and give them the opportunity to be creative and experience creativity. And I think what you just shared about your daughter, which is so beautiful and such an amazing thing that they had, is such a gift that we could give to elders. And if we could get more people, even just to volunteer on that realm or to try to understand what that's like, to allow them to be creative, experience a story, help build a story. I think those things really like live within us and live on, right? Your daughter's talking about something that you did, 20 years ago with her?
It was a nightly thing. They're all growing up years.
And she's going to do that with her children. And what a beautiful gift you passed on. But we could do this with our elders and really allow them to be a part of something and allow them to explore. And even if they have dementia, like use what they have today. Don't say what you remember, just let's create something today.
Yeah, as you're talking about that, I'm reminded I got introduced to doing dramas, street dramas, out in Eastern Europe and Russia as the Berlin Wall started coming down, and went through Eastern Europe and Russia a couple of different times where we did a lot of that. It's an amazing thing. I'd never been around part of that at all. And I remember one time we're out in the streets of Siberia. We're doing this drama called Eat, Walk, Sleep. Someone's got some rhythm sticks, just beating out a rhythm. And for 3 beats, you wake up and you clean yourself up. And then 3 beats, you eat breakfast, you climb on the subway, you go to work, and you work, and you take a break, you eat, all that stuff. And you do that a few cycles, and then people start dying. I was the one that had a heart attack. Somebody died of workaholics. I think somebody was alcoholic, something like that. And I'm thinking, this is just so stupid. Why are we doing this? This is so stupid. Somebody had been doing some signboard issues where they drawing pictures and sharing stories off of that out in the streets in the middle of Siberia. And so there was some wet paint on the ground. Didn't know that. And we go through this thing, and I die, and it was kind of dramatic and all that. And I'm just thinking, this is stupid. But this babushka lady, this grandmotherly lady with a bandana over her head, came over, and she was so broken with me dying. She came and she washed the paint off me with her tears. I'm not kidding. She would not get away from me. It didn't matter how much I moved, what I did, what I tried to get her off. She would not stop washing me with her tears. It took her like 20, 30 minutes to get all the paint off my jacket. And, it was really humbling experience because I'm thinking this is stupid. And yet somebody just got impacted that much.
Yeah.
There are creative people in those nursing homes where you could have them assemble dramas and do that for the whole group of people. There's so many creative things where you can do to include people, needlework groups, quilting groups.
Yeah. Everyone has something in them, even if it's not like traditional art, there is something there. And even to witness creativity is a beautiful thing. That's why we go to plays, right? That's why we watch movies. We want to experience that as well. So even providing that in a more meaningful way, I think will be a really big uplifting thing that's going to help with wellness.
Yeah, you think about the richness of some interactive thing where you're stimulating the mind to imagine all this creativity. Compare that to bingo.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be more fun for the activities director too, to really experience something new and not just be like, here, let's make something out of this. And that is something I definitely never saw, even at the nicer places that I worked. I didn't see some kind of deep activities director really looking for something new and creative, right? And it would be beautiful to see those things kind of evolve and change in some of the facilities that are out there.
Yeah, and you think of all the interaction in the halls and the rooms. Did you see what so and so did? I didn't know they had that in them. And this person did such a good job with that character. It really drew me in. And that person, it was like when they did I don't know, it was a Grammy Awards or whatever, because I don't watch that stuff. But One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the head nurse who got an
Ratchet?
award for the. And I don't remember what her name was, but the whole place opened up with booze. And somebody stood up in the middle and started giving her a standing ovation. And all the booze turned to that because she made the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without her, the movie wouldn't have been what it was. She's an amazing actress, absolutely amazing. You don't know if there was a character play or whatever. But think of all the dialogue that would go on inside of all that wakes up. Wow, I wonder what I could do in that. Or this person would be you really need to get them involved, the next one with this. And you create all this creative interaction.
Yeah. I would love to see more of that. I would love to see us address how we treat our elders and what the priorities are for our country. I think it would be a really nice thing to kind of move towards.
Yeah, there's such a huge resource of potential there to make mentor groups and have youth come in once a week or whatever that is, and you pair people up with somebody who can mentor them in one way or another. Relational health is one thing everybody needs a lot of mentoring in that just never taught in anything. And most people come with tremendous dysfunction. When you're elderly, you know how to recognize those things, how to avoid those things, how to manage those things. I mean, there's so much you can do to give value.
No, I think there's a lot we could look at with like intergenerational kind of programming. I mean, even looking at things like most of these nursing assistants, most of the reason they call off is because they have children and they can't make it that given day. And, sometimes their childcare is more expensive than their hourly rate, right? Even something as simple as what if we put a daycare in assisted living and we allow these people to have their children there and we allow to have a program director who actually allows the children to come and hang out with the elders. There is nothing that I've seen in elders like more than little kids. It would bring joy. It would help the aides. It would keep your employees engaged. It would make them want to stay. There's so many things that really need to be evaluated.
And the richness that gives in the children, it is an amazing thing to see. People have asked me a long time, how can you tell going in a congregation whether it's healthy or not? I said it only takes seconds. I go, how can you tell in seconds? If you got at least 3 generations interacting, there's a semblance of health that's in there. Most youth don't know how to interact with even their own age, much less other age groups.
Yeah.
That would be such a phenomenal boost in community.
Absolutely. There's so much that the children could learn. There's so much joy they could bring. And I don't know why people aren't looking more at this kind of stuff, but there's a lot of possibilities. And hopefully, as time goes on, we have such a drastic, our population is going to age so quickly that something has to give and we're going to have to explore other options. And I hope people are really open to new and creative and innovative ways of thinking to bring that in, because it's going to have to happen. And now I'm going to segue into what that means also, besides the complications and what the industry has to change. That means families have to plan.
Right.
Families need to plan for this. We need to start to think earlier about what our long-term care looks like, what we want out of that, how are we going to afford it, and making sure our family's part of the discussion as we decide about our long-term care so they can be a partner in that journey. And setting those things up ahead of time will also make for a better care partner relationship.
Something that a lot of people aren't aware of, and I think this is a good time to introduce this, is the care side of things. The system is set up that it's going to rob whatever estate somebody has built, and they're going to have nothing left by the time they're just shortly into that. There is a good way to protect that, and that is to put your assets, like your home and that, in a trust. They can't dip into a trust. They can't break it. Your successor trustee takes it over, and the state can't go in there. That has to be in place in most states for at least 5 years for that to not happen. You don't want to put liabilities in where your assets are. You don't want to put a vehicle in a house trust, because if somebody crashes a vehicle, they can dip into the trust to pay for it. But to take the things that really matter and put that in there, and that insulates that so that can transfer to who you intended it for. That's, I think, one of the biggest planning issues that people really need to understand.
And actually, that's what we do at LT Care Nav. So it's one of our big part of our planning. So thank you, Dr. Brad, for that kind of beautiful segue.
Yeah.
So when you give us some of your information, we really help to understand where you are, what kind of care you're going to need, and how you're going to pay for it. And we give you suggestions about what you can do to either find different financial tools if you're early enough on to help pay for that fit into your daily budget or your budget where you are today. Or we really help you understand what it looks like to get to Medicaid sooner rather than later with asset protection. Then one thing that I told you I liked at the beginning most about what we're doing is then we actually make a care connection for you. And if it does look like the best thing is for you is to maybe look at Medicaid sooner, what does asset protection look like? And really to dive in, and we introduce you to the people who can help you make all of these decisions, people that we have vetted, that we trust, and that we know are going to help guide our family members in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's just a huge one that I think we've both seen that people don't understand that. So let's talk about a will compared to a trust for a moment, because I think this is vital in this conversation. A will allows anybody to dip into your assets. Doesn't matter whether you know them or not. The newspaper is going to take their cut. Anybody that does any kind of advertising, take their cut. You have all kinds of people come out. You have no idea who they are. It goes into what's called probate, and it's like a bankruptcy court. And they just start dividing up all of your assets to pay all kinds of things you never signed up for, you never asked for. People just do it because they can, and they know they can collect in probate. The trust keeps you out of that.
Yes. And I'm not an expert in this stuff, but we have lots of people on LT Care Nav who we've partnered with. But yes, you need more than a will. There are lots of different things to help to protect your house, to protect where you want cars to go, all of those things. And I would recommend making sure you have a really good plan. So yeah, we have the experts there, and I would really recommend making sure it's worth spending the money with them. CareNav is free to use, so it's free. We connect you with everybody for free. It's totally free for families. There are enough people out there who need to get paid by you, and we understand everything is expensive. So we are a free service, and we connect you to the people that we feel are best to help you.
Interesting. So your service yourself, you don't charge people directly?
Nope.
So how do you get paid then?
So the providers that we work for pay a fee to be on the site. So because we do detailed background checks on them, we spend a lot of time interviewing them. So to connect with our families, they pay that fee to be on the site.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. That's creative, and that's good.
Yeah.
Because you need compensation for what you do.
Yes. And I would just we are not a place for mom. We are not like one of those mass lead generation sites. We make a one-on-one match, and we introduce the family to the provider. So it's very different, and you are not going to be inundated. We are not selling your information. We make a really curated match based off of what you need, where you live, what you can afford.
Wow. That can take a lot of research on your end.
That's why they pay.
Right. I mean, to really do a good job with it, there's so many things you need to look at. And if you're in a certain locale in a small geographical place, you get to know those places pretty well. Yeah. But if you branch out, every new area you go into, you've got to do all that research all over. And that's a lot of phone calls and all that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of heavy lifting, but we know it's worth it, and we know it's worth it for our families, for our team to be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a really amazing idea. Is this something that just slowly evolved with you working in elder care?
Yes. So I really learned about the needs from my time with I still am with CareBloom, and it's a great product if you need support as a caregiver. It is, but everything I learned is my time there and over the years in the industry, I really wanted to fix something because I know families are struggling. It's overwhelming. It's a financial drain. People don't know who to turn to. And I really wanted to create a one place, come and let me help you. And that's what we're really aiming to do. We are using AI to do some of the analysis of the plan because it's available, it's really smart, and it's just interpreting data. And we are doing the human lifting of interviewing and talking to the providers and making sure they're people I believe in. I've done all of them so far. It's been very, very time consuming.
Right.
And I'm also going to be doing podcasts with all of them. So not only will you take it at my word, but you'll also see my interviews and some of the questions I ask them along the way to vet them. And so families can actually search our database that'll be coming over the next year of our providers and watching my interviews with them so they can see what I saw in these folks.
Interesting. So you do your own podcast?
I'm starting it. I actually,
Yeah.
yes.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Hopefully you have a good experience with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. It can be pretty draining, but it can also be, if it works right, it can be pretty rich. And
I
you
hope,
got to work with the right people who know how to make it work right.
yes, I hope that families, when they come to LT Care Nav and when we launch this, will get to see the quality of people that I'm bringing on. And that is what my ultimate goal with my podcast, which is called The Caregiver's Compass, will be.
Interesting. I had a lot I could share with you on caregiving side that would be pretty phenomenal.
Oh, maybe we do a switchy and you come on my podcast.
Yeah, that'd be good. One thing what you're just saying made me remember this, and this is a huge decision that people need to consider. I've watched a lot of people get into the situation that you are helping people through, and they tend to pick maybe the closest relative or something to be the one who manages their care, and they have no regard to look at their own belief system, compare that with their caregiver, and they don't realize that their caregiver does not want to allow them the kind of care that they desire.
Yes, that is actually super important to make sure you're fully aligned. And that's one of the things we're going to really work, engaging family members into and seeing in people who are going to need care, what those conversations look like. They need to be laid out. You, as the future care recipient, should be the one who creates your plan. And you can only do that if you plan ahead. And then you can present your plan to your family. And most older people want to say, I'm not going to a nursing home. That's my plan. That's not a plan. that's, that's,
Yeah.
that's not your plan. What does it look like if you actually really need more care, if you end up with dementia? Having those conversations and helping create that pathway is going to leave you with the ability to have that fulfilled the way you want and a sense of autonomy in that journey. So,
And also doing the plan, it's like a woman's birth plan with her caregiver. They looks good on paper. Oftentimes that's thrown out the window as soon as she goes into labor. And that's the critical thing that needs to be worked out
yeah.
before you need it.
And I think long-term care, there's a little more rigid, not that it's really rigid because it's still a living plan and it has to change as you go on. But, we can predict different trajectories, right? That's one of the beautiful things LT Care Nav does is it helps you understand your trajectories based off of your health conditions. So we can really kind of lay it out what it probably will look like for you. Like when you might need home care, is it going to be assisted living? Giving your diagnosis, it might be dementia, right? If we help you understand that and then prepare for each one of those scenarios, because you can have multiple plans in place, if this, then this, right? And
Right.
thinking through those will be helpful.
But a lot of in that is, how is the care going to be given, through what kind of
Yep.
caregivers? Do you want medical caregivers? Do you want alternative? Do you want natural? Do you want pharmaceutical? All those things have to be worked
Yeah.
out.
There's a lot of choices to be made, and I think understanding what the choices are help.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So, any final parting words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
I think it's always a two-part for me. One, if you're a caregiver, take care of yourself, find that grace, so you can really be a care partner to your loved ones. And then secondly, create a plan. If you aren't a care partner or a caregiver yet, if you have a plan in place, you will be better apt at both your caregiving journey, and for seniors, you'll have some autonomy. And I think both of those things are really beautiful as a gift for your family.
Yeah, that's really big. That's really, really, really big. I'll throw this one out. I just reminded this. My mother was she had diarrhea for a few days. She's 90. She would turn 96 this year. Extremely active.
Yeah, wow.
Couldn't get out of bed. Neighbors were called, and paramedics and nurses, and they couldn't. They ended up going to the hospital. She gets diagnosed COVID pneumonia. She's breathing fine, talking fine, and that wasn't what it was. But they give her remdesivir. They called me up when they were transferring her to hospice, and I didn't know I was a caregiver. She never said that, but I had been trying to get word through a relative to the doctor, and I just asked to talk to a nurse. I talked to the nurse, asked to go over the lab work with a nurse, and asked for two very, very simple, benign changes in that they thought, oh, that's just harmless. They didn't know what I did, but I changed the physiology, I changed her pH. 2 days later, she was off oxygen. 2 days later, she walked home. And they're putting in her hospice when they called me. So that means they're not expecting her to live.
Yeah.
And that's how big that choice is on who's going to manage your care is. She
Absolutely.
wouldn't be here today if the hospital wouldn't have called me.
Well, I'm glad
Absolutely
they
wouldn't
did.
have. Yeah. And it's amazing how you learn these things through the school of hard knocks.
Yep.
It really is. You're there to help people avoid that school. And
Absolutely.
what an asset.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for joining us and tuning in with us. It's been a really good talk. We've covered a lot of resources, a lot of ways to tell whether a care facility is going to be a good one or not. We talk about the nightmare of when they're not, which is all too common. What causes that? Some flags you need to go through visiting those facilities to look out for. How to really set the stage for all this, plus some really creative ways to enhance people's lives, get them enjoined into care, get them enjoined into activities. What kind of activities do they do? We discussed bingo, which is really common, but it's not engaging. There are a lot of other things to give people a lot more engaged interaction and self-worth, which are certainly on the creative side, and we talk about several of those here. So put a like on this, share this with your friends, give a review so this can be shared and draw more people in so we can cover more subjects like this. Join us next time. We release these every Monday and Thursday, and have an awesome day. Thanks. Bye.